Welcome to Write to Publish, your go-to podcast for all things writing and publishing. I'm Karen Stanley, a 14 times published author and the founder of Mabel and Stanley Publishing. Join me as I share a multitude of tips and insights drawn from my own writing and publishing journey. We'll be hearing from some inspirational authors too, who will share their writing experiences and top tips for success. Each week, we'll learn about an aspect of writing, from composition to genre and from publishing to marketing. Listen in as we learn and chat about all things writing and publishing, and let's get you on the right path. Okay, so welcome to Write to Publish, another episode in the podcast series. I'm Karen Stanley. I'm a writing coach, publisher and writer myself. And as promised, we've got some great authors coming up to talk to you about their writing journey and their book publishing journey so that we can all learn from each other and be inspired by different people's objectives and goals and journeys and experiences. And none more inspirational than the lovely Ryan Nurse, who I met probably about a year ago, was introduced to him by a personal friend. And he's had quite a special journey regarding the publication of his book. So let's, first of all, Ryan, welcome to the Write to Publish podcast. Tell us, first of all, what's the title of your book?
Hello, everybody. So thank you so much for having me. And no, that's not the title of the book. So the title of my book is actually called Sort Your Shit Out. It's how to build the life of your dreams.
And what does shit stand for? Not metaphorically.
Oh God, you putting me on the spot now. It's like I don't even remember the names of what it is, but I got each one. There's a different one for every single one of them. I haven't memorized them, but it's literally the steps that you need to take in order to say build the life of your dreams.
Yeah. So it's about self-awareness, isn't it? It's happiness. It's about implementation, taking your time, all of that. So it's about those stages of the plan.
Exactly. Yeah, you got it right, Karen.
We're not just talking about poo here. So tell us, Ryan, there's quite an interesting story about how you came to write the book, isn't it, really? Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. So look, for me, I've been on a wild journey on my life. I'm actually turning 31 this weekend, but growing up through my, say, childhood, etc., I was the crazy kid. I would do all these weird and wonderful stunts and tricks and do crazy things and end up finding myself literally being bashed in the head millions of times over and over. My poor mum, Jesus Christ. So, yeah, I was like the dangerous kid, the kid that didn't give a crap about anything. I'd just do anything. And, I'd always find myself in and out of hospital as a young child for doing these, say, usually stunt-related things. But then growing up into an 18-year-old lad, I end up finding myself literally knocking on death's doors after being attacked on the way home from a nightclub, which literally left me in hospital with a fractured skull and a blood clot due to a bleed on the brain. I had absolutely zero brain activity, and because of that, specialists told my parents that they should really think about pulling the plug on my life support machine, because they said if I was to ever come back, I would never walk or talk again, and I would be in a vegetative state for the rest of my life. So that was one of the first things that happened to me. And then maybe many years later, around 6-7 years later, I had this amazing relationship with my ex-partner, who is now my ex-girlfriend. We had this great relationship. But then sadly that come crashing down, and I found myself walking into a restaurant to see her there with another guy. And I'm not going to go into all of these things because it doesn't really matter. But what matters most is like the lessons that I took from these adversities. Like I'm a big believer that adversity is an absolute blessing in disguise, because there is so much lessons in these painful things. Like sometimes your most profound periods of pain can also turn out to be your greatest gifts of growth. So for me, I grew so much through these painful events, and obviously in the moment, sometimes you can't even see a way out, and you think this is you forever, and that's what I was like for a long time. But when I sort of flipped my mindset, got on the right track, started to surround myself with, say, like-minded, positive people, I started to elevate my life, and I realised that I should really focus on the lessons rather than the losses. And I extracted so many, say, positive, priceless lessons from these painful events in my life. And then as I sort of come up and out of that depression back in sort of 2019, 2020, I realised that I have all the information in here, especially when COVID come round, and I started to just be vulnerable and share my message online to help people mainly with their mental health when it was the COVID lockdowns. And then as I sort of progressed, and then I made the uncomfortable decision to just literally quit everything, leave everything behind, and go on a one-way ticket to Latin America, where I'm currently now in Colombia still after almost 2 years. Um, I realised that there's so many young adults out there that are literally diagnosing themselves with depression when the fact is they're literally lacking direction. And it's
Yeah.
not just the young adults, it's not the 18 to 20-year-olds, it's the 25 to 30-year-olds, 35, even up to 40-year-olds. I know
Mm,
50-year-olds that still got no vision in their life. And look,
mm.
the person without purpose will find pleasure in distractions. And if you don't know where you're going in life, any road will get you there. So to answer your question, literally, this travel that I've been on, mainly the travels, has been the inspiration, the message to me to say, Ryan, you need to write this book and you need to share it with the world, because there's so many young adults, especially, that need clarity, that need direction in their life. Hence why I created this literally step by step manual for someone to pick up, to read, to learn, to implement, and to start making changes to become the very best version of themselves and to live their best lives.
Yeah, we're here for such a short snippet of time, aren't we? And I'm not wrong in saying that you actually did a lot of kind of personal development. It wasn't just about your life story. You did a lot of personal development. You did a lot of training, didn't you? And mindset training and speaking to people with, real skill and experience. So you did really this work of your book has been a lot of research over a lot of years, hasn't it?
Well, Karen, that's a great question, actually. And, look, I believe one of your questions was to ask me how long this book took to write. So I'm going to tell you now, if you don't mind. So I started this specific book that I've written, Sort Your Shit Out. I started it back in 2020, 21, really.
Yeah.
And I started it, and look, I had that. I don't really know what to use the word, but like when you first become a writer, like you're so happy, you're so excited, and this is with anything in life. Usually, when we start something new, we're so happy, and we got the buzz, and we're like, "Woo, we're gonna be a writer by next week." You're not. So for me, it was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do this amazing thing, and yeah, give it 1 month, I'm gonna have this book on the shelf, and it's gonna sell millions of copies." No, I was so wrong. Like I was so excited. I wrote probably half of the book, but then I started to look back over it and look for I could do this better. I could do this
Yeah.
better because I was on my own journey and I was improving my mindset every single day. And the more
Yeah.
that I improved, the more that I leveled up, I looked back at the book and I kept saying, "No, I can do this so much better." And for me, I'm not like a perfectionist, but I don't want to put a piece of content or a book or something out there into the world and not be happy and think, I'm not giving my full 100% me or the best of my ability to help the people that I want to serve. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to put this on hold. I went on my travels 2022, April 2022, flew over to Mexico, started making my way down Central America, took a boat over to Colombia, went home to England for Christmas, and then I thought, you know what, I need to write this book. This is the time because I've learned so much from the people that are potentially my target audience. Like I meet so many say young travelers, like, oh, I quit my job to go traveling, but I don't know what to do when I'm back, and I'm just like, or like I'm procrastinating on changing my job, or I don't know what direction. And I'm just like, I've got all the tools in here, so I was like, I need to
Mm.
write this book. So when I went back to England, December, sort of really end of November, December, um, I said, look, I'm going to start from scratch.
Mm.
Bin off it, everything, because I keep going, I just keep making adjustments, and it's not going to help me. So I'm just going to start from scratch. So I literally binned it all off, started fresh, flew back out to Colombia at the beginning of February, and then yeah, since February 2023 up until about August, I think it took me to finish
Mm.
completely, and then that's when
Mm.
I reached out to you and said, Karen, I need you to help me.
Yeah, and it's about, so for sort of the listeners' reference, it's about 70,000 words. So we're talking February, March, April, May, June, July. So it's about 7 months, isn't it, to write 70,000 words? And it's quite interesting when you say about, how long it took you and how long it's going to be different for fiction and non-fiction, whereas someone who's writing a work of fiction, their planning might all be in there might be some research, particularly if you're writing historical fiction, but your plan was sort of formulated through your life, so it's a slightly different approach, but it's planning nonetheless, isn't it? It's thinking about, it's quite interesting what you're saying about how you might write a first draft, and I've spoken to lots of writers like this, like, I'm, feeling quite despondent about I've written the first draft, and then when I go back to it, half of it ends up on the cutting room floor, so to speak. That's kind of part of the process, isn't it, really? And knowing what
Yeah,
to
so
leave
like,
out is sometimes as important as what to put in.
yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, because even now, sometimes I think, oh, was there too much words in there? But look, I wanted to get all of this out. For my first book, I was like, I just want to get everything out there, so I know that
Yeah.
I've given it my all. Yeah, maybe on my next book it's going to be half the size. Who knows? But
Mm,
sometimes the less the better. But just don't overcomplicate it with, say, if you was to be writing, someone that's going to be writing a book, don't repeatedly say the same old things over and over again in different ways. Sometimes you need to repeat yourself just to emphasize or to ingrain it in the reader's mind, but you don't need to go over and over and over
yeah.
again on these same things. I sort of realized that. Um, but yeah, just get some sort of structure or planning to how you're going to write your book. Because I remember that first book, it was just literally I sat in my mum and dad's in the spare bedroom, and I just got the laptop and I just wrote every day. I had no plan or structure. It was like, oh, whatever comes to my mind, I'm going to write.
Mm,
There was no organisation, and that's why it was a bit muddled. So then I said to myself, I'm going to pre-write the chapter titles, and then I know exactly what I'm going to be sort of talking about in each chapter. And then what I do, I literally got my phone, my iPhone, I took a notes page, and anytime I'd think of something, I'll just put a note. I'll put a note. I'll
yeah.
put a quote or a sentence or whatever it was that come to my mind, a lesson that I learned from someone or seeing something on my travels, and I'll just write. Sometimes I'll write like two paragraphs of writing in the notes page, and I was like, right, next time I get to my laptop, I'm just going to write this out, and I'm going to put it,
Yeah.
and I'm going to fit it somewhere in between one of these chapters with the specific title. Um, so yeah, that was a really good way of doing it.
Mm.
And what
And
else did I want
that's
to say? I
that's
can't
that's
remember. I think that was
interesting
about
what you're
it.
saying. Yeah, but that's interesting what you're saying there. Like when I'm sort of teaching people to write, if you've got your flow and you've got a bit that you're stuck on, don't be afraid to park it and then come back to it, because it might even with fiction. I know fiction and non-fiction are slightly different, but even if I'm writing a fictional novel, sometimes I might be flowing really well, get stuck on a little point, but don't get bogged down and just leave it and come back. It's fine to do that, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's a great something to talk about, actually, because Karen, in all honesty, on my travels, this is no joke. I would sometimes sit there a whole day. So sometimes, like say, wake up at 8 o'clock or get on the laptop at 8 o'clock and sit there till 8 o'clock in the evening, and I've
Yeah,
written one or two paragraphs, and I've just been rattling in my brain all day. Other days, it's literally 1 hour, and I've written 2 or 3 pages.
yeah.
So don't be hard on yourself, because some days I was like so hard on myself. I write one paragraph, and I'm like, I've wasted my day. Oh, then you just stress out, and then you don't really want to do it tomorrow. And that's when you'll just stop, and then you'll give up for a week, and then you'll say, "Oh, it's okay. I won't write anything for a month." It's all about repetition and consistency. So if you
Mm.
write one sentence, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, yeah. And everybody's journey, this is what I say to people all the time, everybody's journey will look slightly different, and that's perfectly fine. And there are some people who can just free write and don't need a plan. But I do think those people are few and far between, particularly if you've got a really, precise message. You do need something to hang it on, and having that chapter plan is almost like when you go and give a talk. You wouldn't, you might stand up and you might not read from your notes, but in your head, roughly, okay, this is what I want to convey to the audience. These are the main points. It's like when you do a PowerPoint, isn't it? You've got bullet points on the slides. You don't necessarily write everything that you're going to say, but you have got some. Otherwise, you're kind of getting in the car without the sat nav on, and you're sort of meandering around and never really getting to the point, aren't you?
Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it, Karen, because look, for instance, let's say someone asked me, Ryan, speak about yourself, speak about your story. I actually done it the other day, amazing podcast on YouTube, and I told my journey about the hospital, the brain injury, out of body experience, etc. And I put it on there, and I can speak so fluent, and it flows, because now I know it. I practice it so many times over just telling
Mm,
my story. It just comes natural, and it's all in my mind anyway. So I don't
mm,
really need to think of anything. But then if someone said, "Okay, Ryan, we want you to give motivational talk on how someone can improve their business or their life, and in these three specific areas," I need to make sure that I do some research, and then I make sure I've got bullet point notes on every
yeah,
single one of them topics. Because if not, yeah, I can talk about anything, but if someone wants you to talk about something specific, then you need to make sure you're going to base your content or your speech around that. So, for instance, if I ask you to just write a book on happiness, you could just write it. It'd be cool to just free flow and write. But if I said happiness in the workplace when you're working in a company that's bigger than 10 people, between 10 and 100 people, like this is more specific. So the more niche it is, and the more of the target audience that you want to speak to, you need to be really specific. So yeah, I'd say first of all, definitely get clear on maybe the one person that you're directly writing this book for. So don't cast a net out there like I'm going to speak to these millions of people. Yeah, that's great, but focus on just one person. Like in your life, think of that one person that you either spoke to online or that person that you know, and just write that book specifically for them. And then when you do that, you can get really, really clear, and then those people are going to hear your message.
Yeah. I always say write for an audience of one, because you're not going to please all of the people all of the time. So if you know your perfect reader, your ideal reader, and you write exactly for them, you know there'll be lots of people standing behind that person who are going to like the same thing. But if you try and write for everyone, I think we spoke quite a lot
You'll
about
write to
your
no one.
target audience. Yeah, it's like your audience really is sort of 20 to 35-year-olds predominantly, isn't it? Or 18 to 30-year-olds predominantly. And there might be some 50 to 60-year-olds for whom your message will absolutely resonate, but primarily you're writing for that audience. And I think that is, otherwise it can become a bit wishy-washy, can't it? So just a few
Yeah.
more questions before you go. Like what did you find the most challenging about the whole process?
Well, where
All
do
of
I start? So
it. Everything.
no, in all honesty, for me, the writing process was, I wouldn't say easy, but when I was in flow, especially, I could write pages and pages and pages. It was great, just because it's all in my mind. Um, One say challenge was getting some structure to it, because
Yeah.
sometimes I just write and write and write, and then I'd reread it and I'd be like, bloody hell, Ryan, what have you done here? And I'm just it's all gobbledygook, but like it's good to me, but someone reading it would be like, what? I don't understand. Like it doesn't make sense because it's all like different. So yeah, getting some sort of structure to it. So with that being said, definitely get someone to edit it for you, because at the start I was like, oh, I'll just edit it myself, but you can't. What got you, the mindset that got you to the place where you are now isn't going to get you to the place where you want to be. So you need someone else to take a different perspective or a different or professional look at it. So yeah, definitely get yourself edited properly first. Don't get your mate to do it, because so many people are like, oh yeah, I read a book once and I edited it for someone, and I was so tempted to get someone random to do it because they read a book or they edited their mate's book at some time. It was like a 20-page book or something. No, get a professional to do it. Someone that's done many books before, get them to do it. The next thing would be, what did I struggle with? Yeah, so the editing for me, it was just like, I don't want to struggle with it, so I'll get someone else to do it. And then one of the main sort of struggles now is, I would say even leading up to it, I didn't really know much about it. I've done my own research and I've got other mentors that give me some tips and tricks. But as this was my first book, it was like the marketing side of it. I come up with all these ideas. I've done so much research. I modelled other people, which is a great thing to do. But marketing is like number one. Like if no one knows you got a book, no one's gonna buy it. Like you're gonna have your mum, your dad, your brother, your sister, maybe an auntie or their mates gonna buy it. Like you just mentioned there. Like my granny, like my nan's mates were buying the book. They're like 60, 70, 80 years old, and like this book isn't for them. But they're telling me, oh, this is amazing. I'm thinking
Love them.
they're in different ages of their life. So
Yeah.
look, people are gonna buy your book, but you need to get people specific for your audience, your target audience, your niche. They need to hear about it. So get on Instagram lives, connect with other authors, connect with editors, for instance. Do Instagram lives as much as possible. Get on podcasts. You need to get it out there as much as possible. And like, there's a million and one ways to get your name out there and stuff. And I've tried a handful, and like, there's so much more that I can do. So I'm still learning now. Even now that the book is published, I'm still trying to think of different, wonderful, weird, fancy ways to try and get my book out there.
Yeah, and really that was my sort of one of my final questions. Really, is about the marketing, and the marketing is quite often what authors find the most challenging, because they do, I've seen, and I was guilty of that in the beginning. You write this book, you think once I've written it, that's it, woohoo, I'm done, and everyone's going to buy it. Ultimately, the marketing is actually probably the hardest part, and it's a long game, isn't it? You don't it's not a one and done type situation. It's
No.
about consistently being out there talking about it, getting speaking gigs, going on podcasts. You've got to keep promoting, and that can be a challenge, can't it? But
Yeah,
you
exactly.
are
Like
the master of the live. You do love a live.
I
Usually
love
in
a
some
live. I
hot,
love a live.
hot climate, you're always
Yeah.
somewhere exciting when you do it, which does help, I think.
Yeah, Karen, like they say, like the sales is what happens inside the shop, but the marketing is to let the, say, potential customers or audience know that the shop even exists, whereabouts it
Yeah,
is, and how to get to the shop. So, like, you could have the best everything inside your shop. You could have like all the amazing things that these people would love to buy, but if they don't even know the shop's open or the shop exists or how to get there, no one's going to buy anything. So you need to
no.
make sure you've got the right people going in that right direction.
Yeah, that's a great analogy, actually. Yeah, it is. You know, you don't want to be the best kept secret in your industry, do you? So, I mean,
No
it's been
way.
great talking to you. I could talk to you for ages. You've got so many kind of exciting stories to tell. And what I loved about helping you to publish your book was that whenever you phoned me, it was always some weird time because we were operating on different time scales and time zones. And my husband was like, "Where is he now?" I said, "I think he's in Colombia or somewhere." So you were definitely my most exciting client. But what are your future plans, Ryan, for your book? What do you hope to achieve, and what have you got planned for the book coming up?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question, Karen. And I just want to say thank you, Karen, as well, especially being flexible in the time. Because I remember one time I'm in the middle of the Peruvian Amazon jungle by myself with the guide, and I'm trying to get you on FaceTime, and like the signal is so bad in the jungle. It was just like, and, yeah,
Yeah.
Karen, thank you so much. So
Oh, that,
anybody that is listening, Karen was so flexible, so thank you for that. So yeah, for me, the plans for the book. So obviously, being my first book. I didn't say have these high hopes. I didn't think, oh yeah, I'm going to become like the best seller in the world and all this stuff. Of course, I was realistic. Yeah, for me, this is just a business card. For me, I want to go out there. So when I go to events, when I go to places online, oh yeah, my name is Ryan Nurse. I'm a keynote speaker. I'm a life coach. Oh, and I'm the author of Sort Your Shit Out: How to
mm,
Build a Life of Your Dreams. I'll send you a book. Go and get yourself a copy. So for me, this is just a promotion tool. It's a way to make people aware of who I am. Not everyone's going to go onto Amazon and find my book, of course. But when I do speak to people, I let them know that I do have a book. And yeah, in the future, who knows? Like my ultimate goal, I've been saying it more and more recently. My ultimate life goal is to speak on stages all across the world as one of the best keynote speakers because I absolutely love to speak and share my journey. So for me, it'd be like I can just see myself now, like visualize it. I just see myself on this stage like this, thousands and thousands of people, and I've got like I don't know, just a box full of copies, and I just start lobbing them out there. So yeah, when you see me do that, just remember this podcast
no.
here today
Woo!
because that's my plan. But yeah,
Yeah.
look, I'm going to keep writing books because I love to write books now, for sure, and I've got maybe even 2 or 3 more planned already in my mind, and I've even started to write them already. So the next one is going to be called Dying with Regrets, and that's already been started as well. But I'll probably start
Deep.
that from fresh.
That's deep. That is deep. You love a bit of I love it. But yeah, and I love your attitude. You know, it's important to be realistic. But let's face it, from a business point of view, there's no marketing funnel like a book, is there? For your credibility and you know, I often say to people, if you write a book, you've got a year's worth of content written right there, haven't you? From extracts and excerpts, you've got a great way to get yourself onto stages. You've got a great kind of hook for your speaking gigs, etc. So I know we're going to see you on those stages. I see you as the next, you know, Tony Robbins or one of those like big, you know, marketing gurus out there. I'm sure you're gonna do wise things. But I mean, the final question for today, I think I know the answer to this, but have you enjoyed the whole process?
Do you want me to be honest?
Go on.
Yeah, honesty is the best policy. I'm always
Yeah.
honest. So look, for me, I've absolutely loved it. So obviously, even before I met you, Karen, I was loving the journey. Sometimes stressful trying to figure it out, but as soon as I met you, Karen, it's just like me and you aligned straight away. Like I spoke to many other publishers, authors, editors, etc., etc., and I always go with my intuition. Like I don't go with price. I don't go with who and what has said or advised me to go with them. I go with my intuition, the connection I made, and straight away when I got on the call with you, Karen, I was like, she speaks my language. Like she's one of me basically. I was like, me and Karen, we just connect, and yeah, I just felt like I'd known you forever. So I was just like,
Yeah.
I've got to go with Karen for sure. So yeah, like I've
Brilliant.
enjoyed it. You've been happy. I've been happy. Like we've made
Yeah.
this work, and it's been a great journey. So I couldn't suggest anyone to get your services and really go ahead and get their
Oh.
book out there as well for sure.
Oh, thank you. Well, and it's certainly been a pleasure. And I have to, as I say, you're definitely my most interesting client. I've never spoken to anyone in the Peruvian jungle before, so you were a first for me there. But thank you so much for talking to us today. It's been a real pleasure hearing about your very inspirational journey, and particularly you coming back from the brink of death. I mean, that's quite some journey, and your poor mum must have wiped away a few grey hairs along the way there. I mean, bless her heart, you know. I can only take my hat off to her that she's weathered that storm with you, and it's lovely that you're here to share your tale with us. So if you're interested, Ryan's book, Sort Your Shit Out, is available on Amazon. I obviously had the first read of it, really, because I helped him to edit it. And I must say, it's a great book. And what I love about it is there's loads of really great tips in there. Some things that we know already, but we just need reinforcing. But what I loved about it especially is how easy to follow it is. It doesn't talk in jargon. You and I sort of pretty down to earth. We talk in words I hope that people pretty much understand and are quite accessible. So there's loads of tips and tricks and advice and kind of strategies that anybody can use to enhance their life. So I love it for that. So anyone who's listening today, Sort Your Shit Out by Ryan Nurse. It's a must read and will help you to live the life of your dreams, whether that be in the Peruvian jungle or in a flat in the borough of London somewhere. It doesn't matter. So thank you for joining us today. It's been great talking to you, and we look forward to book number 2.
Karen, thank you so much. And everybody who will listen to this, thank you as well.
Thank you.